everyone. I'm Orlando with the WhatsApp Partnerships team. I'm based here in the United States and excited for you all to join us today. Since the pandemic, messaging has become such a critical public engagement channel for governments and civil society to communicate with citizens rapidly and at scale with critical information. And at WhatsApp, we have been proud to partner with Turn.io and Breakout.org to support hundreds of organizations around the globe in utilizing business messaging and utilizing WhatsApp to provide critical services and create positive social impact. This positive social impact has been across a number of different use cases, from health to climate to crisis response and equity, and last but not least, civic participation. At WhatsApp, we are dedicated to protecting the integrity of the messaging service, especially during an election event or a civic process. And so that's why we partner with election authorities like the IEC, who you'll hear from today, civic participation orgs like Vote.org, who will also present later today, and fact-checking organizations around the world to reduce misinformation, increase access to reliable info, and tackle coordinated abuse. To date, we've launched election bots in markets like South Africa, Mexico, Brazil, and others. Just this week, we announced a unique first-of-its-kind collaboration between an election authority and fact-checking organizations to provide users in Brazil with access to verified information with just a few taps of the button. And these bots provide voter education, polling location information, and other resources that are necessary to conduct elections. WhatsApp has three products. There's the consumer app that is intended for one-to-one and small group communication. That's the app that many of you probably use with family and friends. Then there's the business app that has a few extra features and allows you to reach more users. And then there's the enterprise solution, or the API that we're focused on here today. And that allows organizations, whether you are an election authority, a fact-checking organization, or a civic participation entity, to reach thousands of users at scale rapidly with critical resources and information. To date, we've also onboarded more than 2/3 of fact checkers globally to WhatsApp products so that users can verify potential misinformation and continue to work with civic participation orgs and electoral bodies to utilize our products. This work helps to position WhatsApp as a recognized industry leader when it comes to encouraging civic participation on the platform and minimizing interference in elections. So we're excited that you all are here today and beginning your journey on WhatsApp. Let us know how we can help. And I will kick it back over to Turn. Lisa, take it away.
Thank you so much, Orlando. Yeah, we're very excited to partner with you today on this. So I'm going to just jump straight into it. As Orlando mentioned, there's the WhatsApp ecosystem, the consumer app that most of us are familiar with, the small business app, typically for your small business owner. Think of it as your local restaurant communicating with its attendees, and then the enterprise solution, which is the business platform. And that is specifically what we will be speaking about today. If we go to the next slide, please. So to access the business platform, you do need to have a business service provider. There are many business service providers, in this case, Turn is one, but there are a whole array of partners that work with the business platform. If we go to the next slide, please. So before we jump into what we're going to do in WhatsApp today, it's important to take a step back and think about what is the problem you're trying to solve. So perhaps you are an organization that its end users need access to truthful and trustworthy information. In that case, an informational chatbot would be a good solution for that, plus regular reminders of this information. Perhaps your constituents need support in your local council, and you create a help service for them through a help desk service. Or perhaps you have a service to your audience, and you can build a utility like voter registration. So it's really important, before you just jump straight into designing a service, to think of it, what the problem is that you're trying to solve and how you can use WhatsApp to do that and help you solve the problem. If we go to the next slide, please. So particularly in civic participation, there are multiple challenges. We are preaching to the converted here because you're obviously here today and you have experienced some of these challenges yourself. And we're hoping that today we can help you solve these challenges by using WhatsApp and the business platform. Some of the challenges, as I mentioned before, is the lack of accurate information. With so much misinformation in the world currently, where can users find trusted sources of information? Also, the lack of support, especially during times of crisis. People need to get access to real, trustworthy, and secure support. And WhatsApp does deliver that for them through a trusted end-to-end encrypted channel. It's also important to know who can you trust. So that is a challenge that many civic participating organizations have experienced for their end users. And then also easy to use. It's one thing to have access to information, but if it's complicated, no one's going to use that. And we know, as Indrani mentioned, that majority of the world is already using WhatsApp. So that is why we want to show you how you can use this widely used channel, plus the right information and the right set of tools and features to actually solve those problems for you. If we go to the next slide, please. So a typical use case for using WhatsApp on the business platform, especially focusing on civic participation, would be voter registration, social protection services, so paying out social grants to people. And that's a fantastic use case because you've got end-to-end encryption. So your end user knows that they are having a secure conversation with you. Election participation and monitoring, again, a really good way of ensuring that the reach of WhatsApp is optimized. Crisis response, which I'll show you an example shortly of how WhatsApp was used really an effective and also speedily manner to reach those who need it most at the times of crisis. User education, again, what are your rights and how can you get access to? So it can guide as a right way to use information and provide education to users. And then lastly, fact checking. We know there's lots of misinformation in the world today, and fact checking is again a great way of how you can use the WhatsApp service to make sure that actually what you're reading and what you're understanding as true is in fact true. On the right-hand side is an example of a playbook of how one can use crisis response or support crisis response using WhatsApp. We'll be chatting through some examples, and also in our onboarding process, you'll be able to see how you can use the various playbook templates available to you. If we go to the next slide, please. I'm going to show you a few examples now of how other organizations actually have solved their problems using WhatsApp. The first one is a very real problem that most of us are familiar with, and this is the recent war in the Ukraine. The problem here, the state of emergency service in Ukraine had, is they had to get our information out to people on the ground as quick as possible. When we say quick, we say 4 days. That is how quickly they were able to launch a service on WhatsApp. They were able to provide emergency services information, first aid information, and most importantly, information about landmines throughout the period, and still continue to support users on the ground. And this again is a perfect example of how the problem they were trying to solve was informing users in a very timely way, and it also came from a trusted source. If we go to the next example, this is a great example of how you can support users on WhatsApp. This is for organizations, same, and they are supporting the LGBTQ plus community, specifically around mental health. And they are using it as an informative chatbot, almost as a friendly friend that you can have a conversation with in a private environment and ask those difficult questions that you might not feel comfortable asking in an open social platform or directly face-to-face. So again, a good example of how WhatsApp was used as a support tool or as a help desk. And then lastly, the next example that I'll show you is how you can use WhatsApp as a utility. And this use case, the United Nations was driving people to be motivated and take an action, actually take a next step and say, right, I will decide to use less water. And they created a utility where users can actually come to the service, take that action, share that action, and be accountable for what they said they were going to work towards climate change. So these are three examples of how different organizations have built their services using the WhatsApp Business platform to either inform the users, to support their users, or to provide them a service of how they could help them, specifically in civic participation. But who better to hear it from than those who have first-hand experiences running these services and building these services? So I'd like to hand over now to Alex Meadow from Vote.org to chat us through his use case and how they actually got to build the Vote.org chat service. Over to you, Alex.
Thank you, Lisa. And thanks, everybody. It's really, really good to join you all today. I'm Alex Meadow. I am the Senior Director of Partnerships here at Vote.org. We are a US-based organization, not-for-profit organization that uses technology to simplify political engagement and increase voter turnout in the United States. And it's really good. I just want to say before we move on, it's really good to be on with folks all over the world and to speak with you about our experience partnering with Turn and WhatsApp to ensure that voters here in the US have the information and tools that they need to participate in our elections. I'm actually calling in. Oh, I'm getting a little bit of feedback. I'm actually calling in from the airport here in Washington, D.C. after a long flight. So forgive me if there's any background noise, and please just message me in the chat if I need to do anything or move. But we can go to the next slide. Okay, so at Vote.org, we believe most Americans want to participate in voting and democracy. And the reasons that most of them are left out is because of either lack of trust, lack of information, or lack of time. So we do believe that we do believe that people, generally want to participate, but they need to be given the tools, and frankly, they need to be met where they are with the tools and information they need to participate. And specifically, we're going to talk a little bit about the Latino population here in the United States, which in 2020 made up the largest non-white racial and ethnic minority group in the electorate here in the US, making up 13% of eligible voters. And when we were thinking in 2020, especially with the pandemic and folks, being at home, quarantining, and frankly, being a little bit worried about how this national presidential election was going to work, we thought we need to reach voters where they are with trusted information, and where they were was at home, and where they were was on WhatsApp. And we know that around 50% of the Spanish speaking population in the United States uses WhatsApp to communicate with friends and family. And so at Vote.org, where our goal is to get people with information about how and where and why to vote, we thought a partnership with WhatsApp made all the sense in the world, especially to combat misinformation, and especially to combat misinformation about vote by mail, which was used in the United States more than it ever was previously in 2020, due to the pandemic and just the growing, diversification of how we vote here. We can go to the next slide. Okay, so we identified a problem, and I just spoke about this briefly, but we identified that voters across the country, and especially Spanish-speaking voters, needed better access at home to accurate, trustworthy, and timely information in their native language, encouraging them to participate in the voting process. okay, so what are we going to do to solve that problem? We meet voters where they are. And based on the research and the data that we had from WhatsApp, we knew that Spanish-speaking voters were disproportionately represented on WhatsApp here in the United States. And so we built, in partnership with WhatsApp and Turn, a bilingual chat bot that voters can use to get the election information that they need, depending on which state they're in. I'll just say briefly that in the United States, we operate elections slightly differently in all 50 states plus the District of Columbia. So the rules, the dates, the deadlines, the forms, they are different in California than they are in New York or Missouri or Mississippi. And so that complexity meant we needed a tool, vote.org, which is our website, but also the WhatsApp chatbot. We needed a tool that could simplify that for people. And just a quick note about scale, because these numbers over here are a little bit, I just want to speak to the numbers briefly. So the first three bullets are the number of folks that used vote.org in its entirety. And that's our website, our Get Out the Vote programs, the WhatsApp chatbot, the radio ads that we used. So we have a huge scale here in the United States, and we reach millions of people with nonpartisan voter information. And then that last bullet is specific to the WhatsApp chatbot that we built in the second half of 2020. We built it very quickly with the help of the Turn and WhatsApp teams, and we were able to reach 31,000 users in both English and Spanish with over 148,000 messages. I also just want to say here, while we're talking about how quickly we were able to scale this bot up, that, you know, if you do choose to move forward with Chat for Impact, you do really end up with great partners in Turn and the WhatsApp teams. And so they were with us every step of the way, from ideating this concept to then actually building the chatbot and providing us with the technical support that we needed to implement the chatbot, to get the word out, and then to make sure we understood what was going on mechanically and on the back end as we analyzed the data and made choices about what to do next. So we can go to the next slide. Okay, a few key learnings. And, you know, to be quite honest, and I think, you know, we're here to be honest with one another, a lot of things went really well with this chatbot. And then we also had some good learnings that we knew we needed to make changes and improvements to the bot to ensure that we were serving voters well, not just this year where we have midterm elections here in the United States coming up in 2 months, but also in 2024 when we expect to have another really large presidential election. And so one thing we wanted to note is just that we identified, you know, in getting the information into the chatbot, it was a lot of work for our team on the front end. But then this year, when we updated the information for 2022, it was a lot less work because there's just some minor tweaks that we needed to make based on when election law changed in certain states. But a lot of the work of building the chatbot was sort of front end work. And now it's more maintenance and improvement. We also found that, you know, often the information that voters needed, it existed on the vote.org website. And so users would often click out of WhatsApp and get sent and redirected to vote.org. And in the future, we're thinking about, you know, figuring out ways to embed all the information a voter needs in the WhatsApp experience so that we're not linking out and we're keeping voters in the WhatsApp app. And last but not least, partnerships. And this goes for all of our work, but especially with this chatbot. How do we reach people and how do we make sure that we built this great tool that works in English and Spanish? How do we make sure Spanish speaking voters know about it? And so we engaged some groups who do voter outreach on the ground in Spanish-speaking communities here in the United States. And they helped us, they gave us feedback on sort of what they saw needed to be improved on the bot. And they also made sure that their constituencies knew the bot existed and knew that they could use it and knew that they could trust it. So we can go to the next slide. Okay, so now I'm just going to talk you through a brief demo video of how our chatbot works. So here you can see we're saying hi to the chatbot, and this, by saying hi, you get to a menu of options for the type of voting information you're looking for. And so we typed in a certain FAQ, and then here's all the different questions that you can ask the chatbot about voting here in the United States. There's things about voting in person, voting by mail. It's an FAQ that we put together. Now we're going to hit 0 and go back to the main menu. From the main menu, we've now hit 8, which will just, that's just a little bit of more information about vote.org, and we help establish credibility that this information is, coming from a trusted nonpartisan source. Here is the information in Spanish. So if you hit 10, you can switch the language from Spanish to English and then back to Spanish. So now we're back in English. Now we're going to hit 6. This is an election protection information page. If folks are having trouble at the polls or have questions about misinformation, as you can see, we provide them with clear, nonpartisan information on what to do. Now we'll go back to the menu. And then here, I want to just highlight number 12 was the Georgia runoff. In the United States, we had the general election in November, but then we had one state with a runoff election about 2 months later. And the chatbot provided us with the ability to quickly adapt and pivot and shift our strategy when something new comes up. And so we didn't know there would be a Georgia runoff, but on November 4th of 2020, we said, oh, there's going to be a runoff. It's going to be really important. We need to add a button into the chatbot that provides voters with information just about that thing. And so the chatbot's functionality allows you to quickly, I guess, rapidly respond to changing environments. There are other cases that happened in 2020 where we were able to quickly get voters the information they needed when something like COVID-19 was altering where voters could vote in person, or states were changing their vote by mail rules because of the pandemic. So the chatbot provides a really nice platform for you to get new information out to people quickly. We can go to the next slide. Okay, and last but not least, we have this handy QR code to the left that will help you get access to the vote.org bilingual chatbot if you'd like to play around with it yourself. It is up to date for 2022, and you can see just sort of a screen grab of what it looks like in Spanish to the right. And we can go to the next slide. So now I'm really, that felt a little bit too quick, but I hope there are some questions. I'd be happy to stay and answer any questions that people may have. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Alex. I think more a comment than a question. You mentioned the use of community within, Chat for Impact, and I think maybe that's a concept that we talk about often within the program. But in essence, what it is organizations like yourself and people like yourself and all of us getting together and sharing our learnings on how to design and create these services. I see a few comments in the chat window, how do you use WhatsApp for gender-based violence? How do you use it for supporting mental health? All of those use cases are definitely able your one is able to create a service on WhatsApp for that. And we're happy to discuss those. Maybe in the breakout rooms, we'll have time to have more of a direct conversation with each and every one of you. But I think you've definitely hit the nail on the head. Community in this particular instance is really amazing in terms of sharing that knowledge and helping you to build similar services in your country. I see there's a question from Rebecca.
Hi, everyone. I'd like to find out whether English and Spanish are the only languages supported, or we can use other languages.
I'm happy to answer that. So, yeah, Alex,
go ahead,
you want
Lisa.
to? So
No, you take.
So on WhatsApp, thanks, Alex. On WhatsApp, you can use any language as long as your end users can understand it, and then also your administrator that will be adding those content to it. But yes, it's always good, and as Alex pointed out, to provide the language of local and local languages is really preferable, because people like to be spoken to in their local languages.
I see a question on chat, basically saying, this was a question for Alex. How did you manage to get some high numbers of active users, or is it proportional to the number of people who are active on WhatsApp in the specific regions?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So I would say there are a couple factors to our user numbers. One would be we had the pleasure of partnering with WhatsApp to put together an advertising campaign to get the word out about the chatbot. That also was in Spanish language. So again, how do we meet our target audience where they are in the language that is most familiar? And so making sure we were sort of getting the word out through advertising. We also put some of our budget behind Google ads to make sure that we were able to get this chatbot in front of our target population and use sort of the targeting features there. And then last but not least, we just put it, we used all the channels available to us at vote.org to get the word out. And so we sent emails to our users. We used social media to get the word out. We included the link to the chatbot on vote.org's homepage, which gets millions of viewers every election cycle. And so we just tried to integrate it into as many different places as possible. Now, that's also just recognizing like the chatbot from WhatsApp may not be the right solution for everyone. And so some people prefer to come to vote.org on their desktop, or some people prefer to fill out forms on paper. But for those who are already on WhatsApp, we just made sure to get it in front of as many eyes as possible, using as many targeted marketing techniques as we could.
Alex, yeah, there are a couple more questions. One, I think the last one I see here is like, are these numbers seasonal? That is high during election periods, always this high?
Yep. So at least for vote.org in the US, the organic traffic that we get is very much seasonal and related to when we are having elections. And you can see sort of as you monitor like internally at vote.org, both on the chatbot, but also just on our website, that if there is a national election, the days and weeks before the election, our traffic spikes, and then like the days after, it spikes back down, because that's just when people are interested in paying attention. It also, when different states have elections and moments coming up, you can see sort of mini spikes the days before those states have elections, and I think some of that is just natural. The thing that we try to do, and that my team specifically is focused on, is how do we manufacture spikes? So not organic traffic that's going to come to us no matter what, but what are the ways that we can get voters paying attention earlier, before they think of it on their own? And so, you know, sometimes that means working with like an influencer, either a micro influencer or a macro influencer that is well known to voters that you're targeting, whether it's someone who's just sort of famous in a particular city or a particular state, or someone who's famous worldwide, like Taylor Swift. When we're able to work with them and their teams to sort of post about vote.org or post about our chatbot, you can see little spikes in our traffic that are generated not because there's an election coming up, but because we're doing our job and meeting voters where they are, and hopefully getting them thinking about voting earlier in the cycle so that they can make their plans. Because that's a thing that I want to just, you know, I'm always hammering home with anyone who will listen, is especially in the United States, our election system is confusing, and it's often intentionally confusing. There's lots of things on the ballot. Every state runs their election differently. And so to the extent that we can get people thinking about that and prepared earlier, we know that we'll have better results. And then I'll also just address the question that was above Jerry's from Cyril, the skill requirement to building the chatbot. So absolutely, I'm not technical at all, and the folks at Turn and WhatsApp really can help you with the technical pieces of this, so that you can be the expert in what you're the expert in. So we had all of the voting information already. And so we just needed to bridge that gap from having it on our website to having it in a chatbot, and WhatsApp in turn helped us with that. So non-technical folks on our team were able to build this with the help of our partners.
Thank you so much for that, Alex. And actually also just looking at some of the other questions, you know, what is required? How do you get started? The good news is that you can get started today. We are going to go into breakout rooms now, where the Turn team will help you with any questions you have, particular to onboarding. So actually, at the end of the session, hopefully you can have a WhatsApp chat service already. Indrani, over to you for the breakout rooms. We will come back after the breakout rooms because we do have another presenter, Jerry from South Africa on IEC. So once we've come back from the breakout rooms, let's convene. We still have a lot of information to share with you.
Yes.
Okay. So firstly, we're going to talk about the different steps that are involved with onboarding, right? So there are 4 main steps to bear in mind. One is to get a Turn account for the organization, and second is to get a number for your chat service. So some organizations prefer to get a +1 number for the chat service that they choose, or some prefer a local number. So depending on the country you're in, we could either provide you a number for your country because we work with number service providers, or if you want to, you can either get your own number, just get a local SIM. Just bear in mind that you should not be having an existing WhatsApp account on that number. And if you do, there's ways where you can actually, basically take a backup and make that number available to then onboard with that existing number on the WhatsApp business platform. Then you need to register on the WhatsApp business platform by applying and creating something called a WABA, or a WhatsApp business application, and then getting your business verified by Meta. So what you get out of this bootcamp, once you attend this bootcamp, is a 3-month free Turn license from Turn. So essentially, if you've already, once you onboard, you get 3 full months to set up your service, support from the Turn support team, as well as the Impact Partnership team for onboarding, and also guidelines on how to set up a chat service. You also get 100,000 free conversations per month to help you scale your impact. And so it could be like a pilot that you start with in the first month, test out things, iterate as you go. And those 3 months can be, basically to get you to the point of starting to scale your service up. And then this is the link, and we can share that link with you. Sorry, just going to share that on chat. Gustav, I have shared that in our in Slack. So do you mind just pulling that up? It's the most recent link, but this can be used as well by the team and then just pop it out here for all of us to click on and get started. Actually, you should be able to work with this link too. Yeah. And we will come back to this this slide later on to chat through the next steps after you get onboarded. But let's look at the basic steps. So once you click on that link, you would land on this page here, which is basically going to take you to get started with filling in the basic information about your organization. So this is what it looks like. You'll fill in information like your first name, last name, like name of the organization. Make sure you put in the legally registered name of your organization in there, following which you'll have to accept the terms and conditions. Then it'll ask you whether you want to launch a service or whether you just want to test, but then you obviously want to click on want to launch a service. Following which you can add any and invite any number of your team members, as an admin or an editor, and then accept that. Yeah, so this was basically the link that shows you the terms and conditions there. We were talking about the numbers. So when you go to the next, when you say you're ready to go move ahead, it'll ask you to, either provide a number that you already, if you already have one, or choice of number that if you need us to provide your number. And that's where you would say, +1, either a US number, which is automatically generated, or you can ask for a country specific number. Once you're done with that, you then get to the point of like a tracker like this will get generated. So if you ever, once you come to this point, you can go to whatsapp.turn.io and you can see these, this tracker, which will tell you, like, for example, if you asked for a US number, this comes up as, this is the number that's assigned for you. This is the next step. So it will show up on the right side of your onboarding portal. And then you need to just keep clicking on the one that says next step and complete those steps. Okay. The next thing that you will need to do is to complete your business information. So one of the things that I sent in my, a reminder email that we sent yesterday was to say, please make sure that you have admin rights to your Facebook page or the business manager, Meta Business Manager account. Only then will you be able to complete the entire onboarding process. If you don't have admin access, then you might get stuck at a point where you will need to bring in somebody who has admin access. So make sure that before you get started, you get admin access for this process. You'll be asked to click on register now. And after that, what will happen is the number that you selected will show up here. And a little pop-up modal will come up from Meta things where they'll ask you information basically around your organization, details about like the address, phone numbers, and things like that. So you basically need to just continue to create the WhatsApp business application there. So like I was saying, you'd be asked for your legal business name. So make sure you get the actual legal name that's on your certificate of incorporation. Many times you have organizations whose name is slightly different from the trade name that they go with. So when entering that information, make sure you add in the legal business name, a business phone number, the website, and it's crucial that you have an active website. And not something where it's still under maintenance or not working, because Meta is going to verify whether you are a legally registered organization, and if your website is actually you are who you are and your website tallies. And then so all of this information will be requested, and then you'll also be asked to enter a display name for your WhatsApp service. So for example, on the display name, there are some guidelines. You can find that on the guidelines for that on Turn's Learn resource portal. If you just go to the resource portal called learn.turn.io, you'd be able to click and basically search for display name guidelines. So there are specific guidelines. Display names do get rejected if you use like all caps, for example, or if it doesn't have anything to do with your your organization's name. So please look into that as well and make a decision. The easiest is to go with the name of your organization, obviously, because your your audience knows you as a brand, as a trusted organization that they would want to interact with and engage with. And then, of course, the number of the WhatsApp service. Here on the right, you're seeing what I mentioned in my email yesterday about creating a Meta business account. So if you haven't yet done so, you would need to go to Facebook's business page called business.facebook.com, and then you will have to create your own business account. If you already have an existing Meta business account, please don't create another one by clicking on create a new business account. Select the one that's already existing for your organization, because for all you know, a lot of your ad accounts and things like that might be tied up with that. Yeah. And then following that, you would, once you fill in all that information, the last step is to verify your number that you've selected. And how you do that is, by selecting the voice call option. So if you have if you've asked for a +1 number, you will have this window that's opened up, wherein it'll tell you how much time it'll take for a new code to be generated. And the code will show up on this page here, where you can just click on that sound and hear the recorded message, which will say your verification code is, a 6-digit number. So you can then enter that into this section here, and then click on verify, and that will verify and set up a number for you. Okay, so make sure you don't close any of the windows while you're doing this process, because, for example, the verification code needs to be entered here while the verification code shows up here. And once it's completed, your browser tab will close automatically once you've verified your number. Just checking to see if you have any questions in this on this process. Happy to take any questions.
Yes, hello. I have a question.
Sure, Jose.
Basically, we are now deploying a similar solution for our sales area, because we are a social enterprise, and we already have done all of these things with another provider.
Okay.
The question is, can we make another application for using Turn, or is just
Absolutely. But is it going to be for a separate project?
Yes. The one we are doing now is for sales. Now we need one to communicate with our shareholders. Basically, we have like a little more than 1,000. And we need to share the information with them about what to do in front of economic distress.
Okay.
So yeah, it's another thing for information, basically.
Okay. What exactly is the use case? So it's basically information sharing with your shareholders, which you'll be updating on a regular basis, possibly sending them like notifications or information whenever you have.
Yeah, probably. Oh, well, from the beginning, we are a social enterprise that works with micro businesses owners in different situations with them between their path their path to formalization, right? So one of the main problems they have is that they face economic distress situations in their business right now, especially. And what we need to do is to serve them in telling what to do in front of the economic distress. Yeah. So more than shareholders, probably I should correct that, is they are clients or they are shareholders of their own companies, right?
Okay. So is this mostly an information bot, or are you looking at using some sort of like a help desk support line where you can actually answer questions that they raise? So like, basically trying to understand that as well. But, either case, to answer your first question, yes, you are, you can actually set up another service with us, another line with us. That should not be a problem. If at all, at any point you feel like you want to port your entire service to a single BSP so that you can actually have all of your lines managed under a single BSP, that's also an option that you have now that you can do number porting.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions? And Jose, if we do have a live onboarding, sessions that happen on Thursdays and Fridays. Again, it's similar to this, but it's an hour-long thing. So we can actually get you guys to, like, if you've already started off with this process and done that, please follow the steps. We'll send you the link that you can click on and get started with this. So the steps that I shared with you, you can go through that. Will you be needing a local number? Which country are you, setting up this number for?
In this case, will be Ecuador. We're actually in a couple countries that this case will be for Ecuador, yes.
Okay, excellent. Yeah. And if you will need a local number, will you have your own number?
Not really. We can have a number of whatever. Yeah, we generally have German numbers actually because we are based
so
in
can
Germany.
You use a +1 number?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And are you the Facebook admin for your,
yes.
And do you have, okay. Would you want to just volunteer and kind of like go through the process with us while we're on the call today, just so others on the call can see it?
Sure.
Sure? Okay,
well,
awesome.
The thing is that I have a little problem. I will turn on my video.
Okay.
But I am feeding my boy now.
Oh, okay.
So
no worries.
That is why.
No. You have your hands full. So please don't worry about that. I think no problem. So I think what we should do is, if you have the time, you can join one of our sessions. By the way, everybody, we've got 2 onboarding sessions that happen on Thursday and Friday. And those are for EMEA and Asia Pac have one timing, and we'll send you the links to that as well immediately after this meeting, so that you can sign up for those. Those are Calendly meetings, so just schedule that in. And between the partnership teams, we are more than happy to get you guys onboarded. Absolutely okay with that. So Jose, thanks for sharing. And what is the name of your organization again?
Simple SAS.
Simple SAS. Okay. Yeah. Okay, great. Sounds great. Thank you. Can I call out on anybody else who's joined in, who might want to try onboarding today? Kyle, which organization are you from?
Just getting set up. From the Center for Analytics and Behavioral Change.
Okay, CABC. Okay, great.
Yes,
yeah, we know you guys.
Yes.
So I know that CABC used to actually have a line with us already. So is this a new line that you're looking to set up?
I think it's just refining it, because the last time we did do quite a good number on the one project vaccine, but now we're exploring into other avenues in terms of that civic participation. And it's really about the strategy behind it, because we want to reach a wide variety. As you know, we deal with mis and disinformation and harmful narratives. And how we can push that that platform out to everyone. So yeah, a little bit of strat and then
Yeah.
getting it out.
So I think we will be touching upon that in terms of like launch and markets, like basically launch strategy and
Yes.
also re-engagement. Because we now have, I don't know when you last attended a town hall to see our products, new features. We actually have reminders that is a part of one of them where you can now, based on the tier of your existing service. So as you know, like once you onboard, you start with at the 1000 tier 1, right? So
Yes.
then beyond that, as you engage more and more with your audience, literally sending almost 1,000 having 1,000 conversations on a daily basis, you then get upgraded. I think it's almost a way of rewarding you for having, continued engagement with your end users, where WhatsApp would then bump you up to the 10,000 tier. So, and as you, increase more and more, have more and more conversations, like we've actually been on, like some of our clients are actually on the unlimited even, like the WHO or the MyGov line in India, there was a COVID support line. So they were sending out 1 million messages a day even, because it was like countrywide. Yeah, like, so that's the kind of scale that Turn can handle. And hence the reason we feel like you need to try to stretch the boundaries, of course, and see how you can start with engaging, coming up with like message templates that you can share out, to then start looking at tiering up. So the 100,000 free conversations we give you in a month, is definitely something that you have access to. Like with other BSPs, and Jose, just so you know, like most of them will be able to give you maybe 1,000, which is what WhatsApp generally offers. But Turn is, because we work so closely with WhatsApp on the whole social impact pillar, and we work with social enterprises and social and non-for-profits, we're able to be in a special place where we can actually give you this, huge waiver of 100,000 free conversations. So we want you to look at and think about, just like Kyle is, how can we drive engagement, and not just be thinking about the 1,000 or 2,000, like how can we go citywide or even bigger. So, go on, sorry.
I've got one question. This is unrelated to my current organization, but one of my other colleagues is working on a chatbot that wants to deals with very sensitive, that gender-based violence. The question was posed earlier. So one of the issues with launching something like this is data storage. So I just want to pose this question to you as a sort of perusal of where Turn is on that, because it's very sensitive data. Can you be subpoenaed for it? What's the scope of who has access to that messages that come through?
Yeah, absolutely. Gustav, I think you might be in a good place to answer that if you're around, but I can give you a bit of information, but he might be able to tell us more about data culling and data security, steps that we have actually taken. But I mean, we work with crisis response projects, as you're aware. So the whole Ukraine, the war when it broke down, we, like Lisa talked about that specific use case where we had to be extremely careful in terms of the content that was being, one, it's an information bot, but then the other information that we were actually getting, because pretty much every other platform was kind of like, nothing was available in Ukraine. And so with WhatsApp, the data that we had to make sure that we were being very careful about privacy requirements there. So, and in addition to that, we've also had like some organizations come up to us and basically say, if we do, is it possible for us to actually receive a message and then from an end user, and within a minute or two, like basically cleanse that data, like it should not be available. So those sort of, requirements are also something that we can actually, do. And so again, we completely understand, again, there's end-to-end encryption with WhatsApp. So that's one thing that, the end user knows, that this is not being viewed by any third party, but if there are specific requirements like these, it would be great to, we can definitely relay that to the team, and we have the experience to kind of handle this sort of projects. Gus, are you still around? See, you're on mute. Maybe once he joins us, he can help add to that.
Thank you so much for your answer. I think
no problem. Well. No problem. Anuj, just calling out on you. Can you tell us the organization you're from? While we wait for Anuj, maybe Edwin, I know you had your hand up. Do you have a question?
Yes. Thank you very much for that. One, I really appreciate this opportunity because it's also coming at a timely moment for us as an organization, because we've been wondering so much about how to integrate technology into our programming. Because for us, one, my question would be now, we do work around mental health and for our beneficiaries, and also we work around sports and arts and media and stuff. So we're also thinking around, earlier in the presentation, you say that it's important for somebody to have a website. So at the moment, we don't have a website, but we really need to get going with this work. So that is something that is coming up as a challenge for us. Though we really want to do this as like even like today or by tomorrow we get done and get started. But that is something that now we're looking at how best now can you advise us as somebody who is an expert in this, and also how then can we now integrate the mental health services that we provide for the young people that we work with, and also how to promote sports participation among young people. And that is just a way that we do it to reduce the level of stigma that people face within the sports field. So that's some of the things that we do, but we really want to use this also as an avenue to reach and also make services better for our people.
Okay, wonderful. You've got a lot of great questions. So the first one is about the website, and I cannot be more clear about this, because you have to have a website. The only reason it's going to basically be the way that Meta verifies you as a legally registered organization. They will use that as a way to see what is the display name, what is the legally registered organization, and then check the website to see if the program that you're actually referring to is actually part of your, the list of programs that you might already have in your portfolio. And only once you get, yes.
Sorry, Eduardo, just to mention there, obviously you could use the WhatsApp business app. That's if you, and then generally that's a little bit how WhatsApp thinks about that. Then you don't use the API but the API service definitely is you need to have something that's publicly recognized and searchable. Yeah.
Because there was a question for you early on about security. Sorry. Were you there? Yep. Did you hear the question?
No, sorry. I had to take a quick call, but yes.
No problem.
What was the question?
Yeah, the question was around about they want to set up basically a service around GBV and security. Yeah, and so basically the content is going to be fairly sensitive, and so they just wanted to know more about security and privacy related information there.
I mean, that's a great question. I mean, I think it's interesting that because GBV services, gender-based violence services, are we've seen a lot of interest in those, and actually a number of them being launched around the world, particularly because WhatsApp is encrypted. So it makes for a uniquely secure way in which to communicate with end users. So it's end-to-end encrypted to the end user. And in future, not right now, but in future, I don't know if all you know about the feature that messages can disappear within 24 hours. Well, as soon as the API supports that, as you might know in GBV services, one of the problems isn't just that it needs to be secure. Sometimes the person doesn't have access to their own phone. So they might be using somebody else's phone to communicate with you. And so the last thing you want to do if somebody is at risk is to leave those messages on the device for somebody else to read. So the two things are, yes, you need end-to-end encryption, and we support that. And on top of that, ideally, as soon as disappearing messages are are supported, we'll support that as well, which means you could have a completely secure service with disappearing messages on the customer side, on the patient side. And obviously on our side, what you can also do is we can scrub data if it's really sensitive information as well. So in other words, you could build a help desk where you have ephemeral messaging which disappears, you provide support to the end user, and they are guaranteed that information isn't saved. So you can build all those kind of guarantees into the service for GBV services.
Excellent. Just checking into.
Sorry, Indrani and Kyle. I see there's a thumbs up for you. So if you have more conversations, more questions around GBV service specifically, that's something that's very close to our heart. It's the type of service we love to support. There have been amazing ones in Colombia, for instance, called Costa de Mujeres, which we featured, and you can read more about that on our website. But if you have questions, you can ping me directly. We actually are even building our playbooks around that, and I think it's a use case that we'd really like to support more. And so if you have very particular questions, then very, very happy to deal with that either via WhatsApp or you can just ping me directly. I'll leave my my email address in the chat window, and feel free to connect with me.
Kyle's from CABC.
Thank you,
Gustav. Kyle's from CABC Center.
Oh yes, I know CABC. Yes, you guys do great work. So yeah, Kyle, I would love to chat to you further.
Definitely. Thank you, Gustav.
I think we can close out the session because I feel like maybe if there are organizations that are ready to get onboarded, please join us on Thursday and Friday. We will send out an email with the links for you to sign up, and then we can continue with the rest of it because we have Jerry and his team that are going to be presenting from IEC South Africa right after.
Recording in progress.
Welcome back, everyone.
Hi, Carola. Just checking to see if everybody else is coming back. I think most people are joining back right now. Great. I think we can get started. We now have our next community showcase. Carola, if you can just go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So we have our next community showcase, the Electoral Commission of South Africa. Our speaker, Jerry Ramaltori, is from the Stakeholder Liaison and Civic Education Department of the Nation Office for IEC. And Jerry works closely with the outreach team on the digital platforms that are used to inform and educate voters in South Africa, especially the young and first-time voters in rural parts of South Africa. I'll hand over to Jerry.
Yeah, good afternoon, Indrani, and of course, good afternoon to everyone. It has just, in South Africa now, looking at the time, it has just gone, 18 minutes after 5 in the afternoon, Central African time. Indeed, I come from the Electoral Commission of South Africa. I'm the assistant manager for Civic and Democracy Education, which is responsible mainly for, community outreach and mobilization. And of course, civic and democracy education is a very important element of that. The Electoral Commission of South Africa, in short, is an independent constitutional body which manages free and fair elections of legislative bodies and institutions through the participation of citizens, political parties, and civil society independent, electoral democracy in South Africa. So basically, that's what we are about. That is, what we call in South Africa our constitutional mandate as the IEC. Next slide. So this is what our case is. In the period leading to the 2021 municipal elections, you would remember that at that time, we had COVID-19 lockdown restrictions, which prohibited the movement and gathering of people in the country. And coming from the background of CDE, when we begin to prepare for elections, we need to conduct what we call civic and democracy education, and closer to elections, what we call voter and balloting education. So we had a challenge because that required us to go and interact with the community to ensure that we reach the length and breadth of the Republic. And we had to come up now with a way in which we could still be able to reach out to the electorate even during the COVID-19 pandemic lockdown restrictions. And when we did a bit of research, we realized that a lot of people actually in South Africa were using the WhatsApp. In fact, to be precise, as a 2020, 96% of internet users in the Republic had already began to use the WhatsApp. And that made the channel in the country one of the most popular social media platforms. And we saw an opportunity as the Electoral Commission that perhaps we could use this platform to do the following things, as you will get to see when we get to the slides ahead. Next slide. Now, this is what we then developed with 10IO, what we call obviously a WhatsApp business platform. Using a number of material, CDE material that we shared on this particular platform to ensure that even during these lockdown restrictions, our people were able to get the relevant information that relates to elections. And that included animation videos, it included social media toolkits, various fact sheets on civic and democracy education, as well as audio clips. Next slide. As indicated earlier, the problem that we're trying to solve was to reach out to eligible voters. I remember at the time we had 26 million registered voters in our national common voters roll. And we needed to find a channel that we could use under the COVID environment. And of course, the solution therefore was to then join WhatsApp, which is what we did, thanks to Gustav from 10IO. And the scale, was actually quite interesting because if you compare the different digital platforms that we used to WhatsApp, it became third in terms of popularity where the Electoral Commission is concerned. Number one, I remember it was Facebook, and then we had Twitter. And of course, surprisingly, WhatsApp then became third. And I'm saying surprisingly because, we had never used WhatsApp before as a part of our civic and democracy education communication tool. And, with any other new thing that you introduce in the market, it takes, people time to warm up to it and start using it. But surprisingly enough, as you can see the analytics on the slide there, we had over 260,000 conversations just within the first week of November. That is when we had elections, and that was quite an interesting figure, given the fact that we were also available on other different digital platforms. Yeah. Next slide. And these are, well, the things that we have learned. Public access to free Wi-Fi in South Africa has become very popular. A lot of public areas in South Africa now provide free Wi-Fi, and with free Wi-Fi, it means that people will be able to then access and use WhatsApp. And during non-election period, of course, then we thought we could continue to engage with our electorate on the WhatsApp platform. given that most of the Republic is actually rural, and being rural, it means therefore that other forms of communication, it's not easy to reach our electorate with other forms of communication. But then with WhatsApp becoming a thing that is easily accessible, due to the fact that now, a lot of public areas are providing free Wi-Fi, then we're able to even reach the most, remote areas in the Republic with civic and democracy education. Next slide. Yeah, basically, this is how our WhatsApp chatbot looks like. You would then WhatsApp hi to 0600 88 0000. And let's play the video there. If you WhatsApp hi to this number, then this is what is going to appear. You will have a menu with 13 items there, ranging from voter registration, to share. As indicated earlier, then you've got your animation videos on different content. And then, of course, depending on your interest, if you want to know more about registration, then you click 1 and then you'll get more information about registration, or 2. If you want to know more about the ward councillor, then what information about the ward councillor would populate, or municipal elections as we're preparing for municipal elections. And of course, when you go to item 5, electoral fraud and offenses, the electoral code of conduct, free and fair elections. We are currently having what we call e-procurement. So if you wanted, to do business with the IEC, there's the information also available on a WhatsApp chatbot where that is concerned for different, members of the public. And then, of course, as we continue there with how the WhatsApp chatbot works, we have another, interesting area there called political party funding, which is something that is new in the commission. And of course, that is also available on our chatbot. And over and above that, we have a new device called the voter management device. It gives us the ability to register voters from anywhere, and participation in election makes it much easier. We've got information on by-elections. We recently ran a campaign on tertiary institutions, so there's information regarding that as well. And of course, finally, if you are already an active user, you have an option there to share our WhatsApp page with anyone that might have interest to know more about elections or electoral processes. I think really that's the long and short of it. Thank you.
Thanks, Jerry. So as you can see, there is a QR code which you can scan and actually access the amazing service that IEC South Africa has actually built out. If you have any questions for Jerry, please feel free to add them to the chat window, and he can answer those questions there. Let's move on to the next section.
Thanks, Indrani. Jerry, just a quick comment. I really like how you were able to add services post the election, like the how do I engage with the IEC afterwards? I think that's a really smart way of bringing a utility service into an existing informational service. So you obviously know what problems you're solving, and we look forward to seeing how your service continue to grow. So on that note, we are ending for the end of our session together, but it's just a quick recap on all this information that we've shared with you today. Is like, where do you start? We have shared with you the onboarding link. So some of you have started onboarding. We will also share some follow-up material with you. But maybe while we finish off the session today, think about what the content is that you're going to share with your service. Maybe it's existing content that you have on your website, or on your Facebook page, or on a flyer. Think about what is people that you're engaging with going to find the most valuable. Think of how you're going to engage with your service. I'm going to use Jerry's example here. Initially, it was just information about this is the election, but as the service grew, he was able to build in utility services. Think about how you're going to keep your users engaged. It's all fantastic that users come and use your service, but maybe you can use a reminder after a week or two to send them, say, about a latest update, about a polling station that is maybe being closed, or about a valuable piece of information that will be relevant to them in a time of crisis. And then keep on working and refining your service. We all know that static services does not really drive engagement. So think about how your users are continuing to change and use your service. To the next slide. Then lastly, think about your launch service and how you're going to launch it. How will users find you? Maybe you've got existing media channels. Maybe you've got an existing website page or a Facebook page. Use those and optimize those to promote your WhatsApp service. As part of the term product, you have access to some great chat tools like a QR code. You've seen we share those amongst ourselves quite often, and also a click to WhatsApp link or a WAMI link that you can add into any of your digital promotions for users to click on and then open up the WhatsApp conversation. And then lastly, put a plan and a budget together, because it's important then not just to build a service, but also go to market and publicize and promote the service with your end users. I'm going to show you quickly just a few examples of how other services have promoted it. The first one here is a Facebook campaign that you can click out of and actually start opening the WhatsApp conversation. The next one is some examples of how on the right-hand side, my right-hand side, Sesame workshop in Mexico are promoting their service. So they're using a combination of a keyword, a number. On the left-hand side, it's a video. We unfortunately have a bit limited time, but it's a really good explainer video on how users can use the service. If we go to the next slide, please. And that is questions. So it's a little bit of a brief overview and recap, but I think it's important to keep thinking about what is the problem you're trying to solve, how WhatsApp can help you with building a service that provides information to people.
I come home. Thank you.
Thank you. Help support your users and also provide a utility or a service to them. Any questions at this moment before we hand over to the community part?
Hello.
Yes, do you have a question?
Yes, I have a question about that. Do you have all information in Hindi?
I'm working and
Sorry, Mr. Raf, are you asking regarding the presentation, or if you could use Hindi within the service?
Langford, ma'am. I'm asking about all information. Do you have any Hindi format for the Indian subscribers or users of WhatsApp?
Musharraf, I can help with that. I'm based in Hyderabad in India, and maybe if you could just send an email to impact@turn.io, we'll be able to reach out to you. You can provide a service in either Urdu or Hindi on WhatsApp. Multiple languages are supported. But in case you have any specific question around the onboarding process, I can assist with Hindi. Thanks for your question.
Okay, thank you, Carola.
Cool. Can we then move on to the next slide, please, Carola? Great. The next slide, please. Okay, so here are ways that you can stay connected with us after this bootcamp. You can reach out to us via our social media channels like Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn. We also have an active LinkedIn group where we promote events and also share updates. And finally, you can connect to us via our WhatsApp support line by scanning the QR code or just sending us a simple hi message on the number displayed on the screen. And the Turn Partnerships team will be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. So do reach out to us at impact@turn.io. Next slide, please. So our next monthly town hall takes place on the 21st of September, and these take place monthly. We don't have one I think we don't have one in November. So we have one in September, October, and again December. But they're interactive sessions where we share new community use cases, latest product updates, any news, and a lot more. So do save the date and join us. And we look forward to seeing you at other events that we will share the link for you to register. I know we are a little over time, so I will go ahead and send you this feedback survey link via an email immediately after this session. So it would be really, really appreciated if you can please share your feedback on this experience with this bootcamp. And we really take your feedback seriously as we plan more and more bootcamps this year. And it's just a simple form with 3 questions. So please fill it in and share your feedback. Thank you. We will be sharing a recording of this meeting. So please, in the email that I sent. And again, 21st September is the deadline for the accelerator. It's an opportunity for anyone who has attended the bootcamp and has onboarded to apply for. And there's an opportunity to win unrestricted funding of up to $25,000 to scale your WhatsApp service. So please register for that. You can go to the accelerator link on our website, turn.io. We will also share the link of the accelerator registration form in the email that we send you after this meeting. And moving on to the last slide, please. Thanks, Lisa. We have, I know that the onboarding process was a good learning experience for a lot of you who wanted to get started. And I believe we also actually managed to onboard one organization in one of the groups. We will be in touch. And as I mentioned earlier, we do have these onboarding sessions that we're conducting on a regular basis for EMEA and APAC slightly early in the day, and for America slightly later on Thursdays and Fridays. So please, if you're interested in getting onboarded, or if once you start, if you get stuck, just feel free to reach out to us on that group, and then we can, assist you to get you completely onboarded. And we will be sharing a recording of this bootcamp possibly by the end of the day, once we've, cleaned up the recording. And thanks again for joining us. And really, really hope you have a great day ahead. Thank you very much.